The baby had only just been born, yet he suddenly called out to the dark gatekeepers and soldiers, "I, Archimonde, call upon you to obey my command." That single sentence scared every servant and noble in the room into silence. After all, that was necromancy, the forbidden art of those terrifying necromancer in legend. The irony was that the baby had been born into the strongest swordsmanship family, the very bloodline that once killed that necromancer. And this newborn baby really was the reincarnation of the necromancer who had been slain years ago. Now, of all people, he had become the descendant of the knight who killed him. Back then, Klein's evil necromancy had plunged the entire continent into fear. To eliminate him, the Empire joined forces with Rhineland, the strongest knight in the world. In the end, they wounded Klein so badly that he no longer had the strength to resist. Rhineland slowly walked up to Klein. "To kill you, the entire continent had to drown in blood. And now I finally have the chance to pierce your heart with my sword. So stop resisting. For the peace of the continent, let this end." But Klein was still roaring in rage. "You all stood by and watched the plague spread. And now you dare stand here and talk about peace. You knights are nothing but hypocrites. Even if I die, I'll drag every last one of you down with me." The Imperial troops behind them shouted in panic, "He's trying to use his own body to cast necromancy. Kill him now." But Rhineland did not strike immediately. 20 million people died from that plague. Then you used necromancy to turn them into an army. That was the true beginning of this war. Klein glared ahead, his teeth clenched. "Don't think I don't know. Your own family was among those 20 million. That's why you came to hunt me down." Rhineland drew his sword. "You're wrong. I came here for only one reason: the future of the children. I want to pass on my choices, my faith, and my hope to the children of tomorrow, for the next generation, and for the descendants who will come after me." The next moment, Rhineland swung his sword and severed Klein's head in a single strike. As Klein collapsed, thunderous cheers erupted all around him. With his last trace of consciousness, Klein could do nothing but close his eyes to the sound of their celebration. But just then, a bolt of lightning suddenly split the sky. Klein's consciousness awakened again, inside the body of a newborn baby. The servants around him stared at the infant, full of anticipation. The young master is so adorable, but no one expected that in the very next moment, the adorable baby would suddenly shout, "Dark gatekeepers, servants, and soldiers, I, Archimonde, call upon you to obey my command." In the next second, terrified screams echoed throughout the entire estate. 15 years quickly passed since Klein's rebirth. On this day, Klein had only just stepped out of the estate when a burly man dumped an entire bucket of cold water over him. The man kept muttering, "Evil spirit, be gone." Just now, you had the exact same look as Archimonde, the necromancer. This man was Father Karrason of the Holy Order. Klein turned to look at him with utter exhaustion. "You've been doing this so-called purification ritual for years. Aren't you tired of it yet?" Karrason answered with a deadly serious face. "This is not foolishness, young master. The lingering soul of Archimonde inside you requires regular purification." Klein watched the priest, who was built more like a brawler than a holy man, slowly close in on him, and instinctively backed away. "You are just a lunatic. Stay away from me." Karrason immediately called 2 men over. "Hold the young master down. Strip him, wash him with holy water, and drive out the evil." Klein had never expected his life to turn out like this. In his memory, his head really had been cut off that day. But when he opened his eyes again, he had become a baby, and the first words he shouted after birth just happened to be Archimonde's necromancy spell. Because of that, he was treated like an evil spirit and locked in a monastery for 7 whole years. Then he met Father Karrason of the Holy Order, and that was when his suffering truly began. Karrason once stood in front of him and prayed for 24 hours straight. He even tried to exorcise him with frozen holy water mixed with garlic. The worst part was that he actually used fire torture too. That was not an exorcism. That was basically a full torture menu. Klein had been tormented so badly that he barely felt human anymore. Klein finally dragged himself back to his room. But his maid, Eyering, was still praying. "May our young master Klein live properly as the descendant of a hero and grow into a healthy person." Klein could not take it anymore. He grabbed the hat she had placed on his head and threw it away. Eyering looked at the hat with genuine regret. That was handmade. Klein immediately felt a little guilty. No matter what, it was still a heartfelt gift. Had he gone too far? Then, Eyering continued, "By Father Karrason." At that exact moment, Karrason somehow appeared inside the room. "Young Master Klein, I spent an entire week making that hat, and you kept wearing it this whole time. I'm truly grateful." Klein tore the hat to pieces right in front of him without saying a word. Just then, Knight Dunkel slowly walked in. Father Karrason, the purification ritual is over. The rumor that young Master Klein is Archimonde is already 10 years old. The Order has long since concluded that there is nothing abnormal about him. Only after hearing that did Karrason finally let Klein go. The next purification ritual is on Friday. Don't forget. Now hurry up and get lost. Once Karrason left, Klein finally let out a breath. Were holy men even allowed to torture people like this? Was that guy really a priest? Ever since his rebirth, Klein had been forced through endless church baptisms. He had not even gotten a chance to perform his body evolution ritual. From the moment he was born, he had lived under constant surveillance. Because of the rumor that he was Archimonde, he had spent 7 years of his childhood locked away in the monastery. And now that he was finally returning to the ducal house, he had ended up being tormented by a priest like that. Dunkel explained, "Young master, he may look like that, but he is an executor of the Order. Only the strongest members of the Order can receive that title. Other than our family's 7th Duke, no one can defeat him. And the 7th Duke is the strongest knight alive today." Klein simply said in a calm voice, "The strongest one was the 1st Duke." As he spoke, his gaze fell upon the portrait ahead. Who could have imagined that 200 years had passed since Klein's death, and that he had been reborn as the descendant of the very man who killed him? But the Land family of today had already been targeted by its branch families. Like a pack of wolves, they were waiting for the chance to tear the main family apart and feast on what remained. And today happened to be the day those branch families gathered at the Land estate. When Klein entered the hall, the younger members of the branch families immediately turned their attention to him. On paper, they were his cousins. In reality, they were enemies the Land family had to guard against. These branch families no longer treated the main Land family with any real respect. As this situation dragged on through the generations, the Land family's power had continued to decline. The fact that they dared to openly mock Klein, the direct heir, right there in the hall, already said everything. The Land family now had only one hope left. That person was Klein's half-brother Delia, the eldest son of the Land family. Delia had possessed incredible talent in swordsmanship since childhood. Because of him, the Land family had barely managed to hold on to its title as a prestigious swordsmanship house. He was also the only one among the younger generation who could use the 1st Duke's meteor sword. After Delia defeated his opponent, he immediately walked over to Klein. "Klein, you came." Just then, the 7th Duke, Henk, slowly approached as well. Seeing him, Delia quickly stepped forward to pay his respects. Henk looked at him and said, "A knight of the Land family must always be among the finest in the Empire. That was the final teaching left behind by the 1st Duke. You may already be excellent, but you must keep moving toward that goal." Delia immediately lowered his head and accepted the instruction. Then Henk walked up to Klein and gently patted his head. "I can sense no mana inside you right now." The people around then instantly began whispering. Who would have thought the eldest young master's little brother had no mana at all? Isn't he just completely useless? And he's been spouting nonsense since he was a child. But Henk's voice was surprisingly gentle. "It's all right. There are many ways to live besides wielding a sword." As Klein listened to the insults around him, not a trace of anger showed on his face. But deep down, he thought coldly, "Rhineland, you once said you fought for the future of the children. Are these pieces of trash really the people you killed me to save?" After Henk left, a young man from a vassal family immediately stepped forward. "I never thought the Land family would have someone who can't even use a sword. Someone like you is just a waste of food. What gives you the right to stand above us?" Klein badly wanted to strike him down, but with everyone watching, he could only endure it for now. Seeing this, Dunkel quickly stepped in front of Klein. "That's enough, Dalton. If you continue insulting our young master, the Land family will not stand by and do nothing." Dalton could only turn away in frustration. "Lucky you, hiding behind a guard knight, you coward." Once Dalton walked off, Klein finally spoke. "Dunkel, do you have an extra sword on you?" After taking the sword, Klein slowly walked toward an open space. Dunkel was confused, but more than that, he felt pity. The young master clearly could not accept being humiliated like that, but it was already too late. Young Master Klein had a body with no mana at all, and someone who could not use mana was destined never to become a knight. But Klein was not thinking about any of that. He was replaying the meteor sword Delia had used earlier over and over in his mind. When he watched it earlier, something had felt strange. He could see the path of the technique clearly, and even the flow of mana within it. The next moment, Klein gripped the sword in his hand and swung it straight forward. With a thunderous crack, the massive stone in front of him was split apart by a single slash. Dunkel, who had not even walked far, froze in shock. Young master, you just used the meteor sword. Even Klein himself was stunned by that strike. He had only seen someone else use it once, yet he had somehow recreated it perfectly. For now, he could only ask Dunkel to keep this a secret. After all, he still had to deal with that deranged priest's exorcism ritual. The next day, Karison arrived as usual with holy water and performed a full-scale exorcism on Klein. The moment the exorcism ended, Dunkel walked in. Young master, Dalton has sent you an invitation. He is the one who clashed with you at yesterday's gathering. He claims he wants to apologize for what happened. Klein looked at the invitation and already knew that Dalton's so-called apology was probably hiding another motive. A hunting event? Looks like he needs an excuse to lure me outside. Still, Klein had no real reason to refuse. Besides, he wanted to meet Dalton face-to-face as well. After seeing Delia's swordsmanship yesterday, Klein had replayed it countless times in his mind. And because of that, he finally realized something. He could flawlessly recreate any technique after seeing it just once. He still did not know why, but right now, Klein truly had that talent. Off to the side, Father Karison slowly walked over and looked at the group. You're going to the hunting event? Then how about I come with you? The moment Klein heard that, alarm bells went off in his head. Why are you following me, you creep? Karison, however, kept a perfectly serious face, because I can sense an ominous presence coming from your body. In the end, after Karison shamelessly insisted, he still ended up tagging along with Klein's group to the hunting event. Before long, they arrived at the Conwell family estate. Even Klein was stunned by what he saw. This was only a branch family, yet its mansion was even more luxurious than the ducal land household. Even more ridiculous, this was supposed to be nothing more than a children's hunting event. Yet it had been arranged with extravagant grandeur. Just then, Dalton walked over from the side. Klein, what are you staring at so seriously? As he spoke, he let go of the dog leash in his hand. In an instant, several hunting dogs lunged straight toward Klein. Dalton smirked. I scattered food all over the mountainside. A starving dog's sense of smell is 100,000 times stronger than a human's. Once they catch the scent, they'll run all over the place chasing food. Then he actually pulled out a bow. Right in front of everyone, he shot the hunting dogs down one by one. Dalton grinned. Well, Klein, did those dogs scare you? Then he casually walked over to Iring. So this is the maid you brought with you. She's pretty cute. Come over here. I'll show you something fun. The moment Klein saw that, he stepped forward and grabbed Dalton's wrist. Keep your filthy hands away from her, or I'll snap them off. Dalton's expression darkened, and he shoved Klein away. You've got a lot of nerve. In that case, come with me. Let's see whether you really have the guts to back it up. Without the slightest hesitation, Klein mounted his horse at once. Dunkel, you and Iring, stay here. Don't follow me. Right after that, he took out a signal magic scroll and handed it to Dunkel. As for that priest, there's something suspicious about the way he followed us all the way here. If he suddenly disappears, something's definitely wrong. If that guy vanishes, tear the scroll immediately. The crest linked to it will appear on the back of my hand. With that, Klein kicked his horse forward and rushed off in pursuit of Dalton. He knew Dalton could not have gone far. If he followed the forest trail straight ahead, he would find him soon enough. But to Klein's surprise, the moment he entered the hunting forest, Dalton was already lying in wait, not far ahead. Dalton sneered. So you finally came, Klein. Today, the prey I'm hunting is you. I'm going to cut off your head, throw it at Delia's feet, and make sure he hears exactly what I have to say. The Land family really is a joke. So what if Delia is strong? Your family is nothing but an empty shell now. The ducal title will belong to our branch line sooner or later. If you want to blame someone, blame the fact that you were born into a useless family. As Dalton finished speaking, countless soldiers emerged from the woods behind him. It was as if everyone would be saying the same thing tomorrow. The young master of the once great sword house, the Land family, died like a dog in the hunting grounds. Hearing that, Klein suddenly burst into a wild laugh. You ignorant clowns really don't know when to stop pushing your luck. This family was built upon the price of my death, and a worm like you dares to insult and mock all of it? In the next instant, an eerie blue glow slowly began to spread around Klein's body. The moment Dalton saw it, his body started trembling uncontrollably. That's not magic. What the hell are you using? At the same time, ghostly flames ignited in Klein's palm. This is demonic energy. Hear me, ancient dead, buried beneath the weight of time. I awaken you and command you to manifest once more beneath the light. From this moment on, in the name of Archimant, I order you to devour them all. He merely recited a short incantation. Yet he truly summoned a legion of undead that had slept for 200 years. The surrounding knights were stunned beyond words. Who are you? How can you summon something this evil? But none of them knew that the Klein standing before them was the very same terrifying necromancer from 200 years ago. As Klein cast necromancy once again, he completely immersed himself in a world of his own. A full 2 centuries had passed, yet he could still feel it clearly. In that endless darkness, the voices of the dead were still calling out to him. Staring at the skeleton soldiers gathered around Klein, Dalton finally screamed, "That's impossible." Klein looked at the nobles surrounding him and spoke coldly. "Archimont, that really was the name I once used." The moment he said that, fear flickered across the faces around him. Wasn't that supposed to be just a rumor? But when they saw the skeletons Klein had summoned, they burst into laughter again. "Kid, what's with these little skulls you brought out? You made such a dramatic scene, and this is all you summoned? We've smashed tens of thousands of skeletons like these during sword training." Dalton immediately gave the order. "Ranged unit, take out those skeletons first. Everyone else, charge in and kill that brat." The next moment, the archers around Dalton drew their bows at once, sending countless arrows flying toward Klein. Dalton laughed loudly. "Poor Klein, don't get turned into a pincushion now. I still want to take your head myself." But to his shock, the moment the rain of arrows fell, a group of skeleton soldiers formed a solid wall in front of Klein and blocked every attack. Klein said calmly, 200 years really is a long time. I never thought people would no longer recognize these skeletons. My skeletons are nothing like the ones you know. First defensive formation, release. All units, prepare to advance. Rhineland, 200 years ago, you killed me for the future of the children. Now watch as I crush them with my own hands. The next instant, countless skeleton soldiers rushed toward Dalton's group. Seeing this, Dalton finally started to panic. Skeletons can run? Before they could even react, the skeletons had already charged into the crowd and begun slaughtering them. Klein continued issuing orders with chilling calm. Second crossbow units surround them. Lock onto the targets. Prepare to fire. In an instant, countless arrows shot in from every direction, sealing off every escape route. Caught completely off guard, large numbers of soldiers were cut down by the undead legion. Dalton trembled as he watched the scene unfold before him. This is impossible. These aren't the skeletons I know. At this rate, it's only a matter of time before we're wiped out. Worse still, even when the skeletons had their heads cut off, they still kept swinging their weapons and attacking. Klein looked at the panicked crowd and actually took the time to explain it to them. "Didn't I already tell you? My skeletons are different. Even if their heads are severed, they can simply reattach them. That is why I was able to sweep across the continent with my undead legion back then. Beings summoned by my necromancy do not die that easily, and every single one of them obeys my commands absolutely. They can even make proper use of tactical formations." All right, explanation over. Let's continue. The next second, the skeleton soldiers launched another slaughter against Dalton's group. Driven into a corner, Dalton finally realized something. Then I just need to stop the skeletons from regenerating. No, it's that brat. As long as I kill him. The next moment, Dalton activated a mana skill and instantly appeared in front of Klein. "You brat playing with corpses. This ends here. No matter how strong those skeletons are, it's over now." But at that moment, Klein slowly opened his eyes. He tightened his grip on the sword and swung. Dalton's face twisted in shock. That's the first Lamduke's battle technique, Meteor Sword. In the next instant, Klein's slash cut through Dalton's sword and severed his hand along with it. Klein stared down at him coldly. "Don't think you'll get to die easily, Dalton. Your judgment starts now." Klein looked at the gravely wounded Dalton and spoke coldly. "You guessed right. If the caster dies, the things they summon lose all their power. That was the weakness I failed to overcome back then, and it was why I was defeated. But in this life, I'm different. Now I can use a knight's mana core. I hate it, but since I was born into this body, I have to protect the Land family." Dalton looked completely confused, but his consciousness was already beginning to fade. When he opened his eyes again, he found himself inside a pitch-black space, his body tightly bound to a torture device. A figure slowly emerged from the darkness. "Are you awake? This is the place where souls arrive beyond the world of the living. It is the hell I created with my own hands. I, Archimont the Necromancer. Dalton, while you were alive, you abused hunting dogs and starved them to death. You always used hunting as an excuse to torment living creatures." Dalton roared. "If you're going to spout nonsense, at least make it believable. Hell? And who the hell do you think you are?" But then he suddenly remembered what had happened. "I was clearly struck by Klein's sword. So why is my body completely fine? The voice in the darkness continued, "Because you are already dead. Dalton, I am simply returning the karma of your life to you. That is the very reason I created this hell. Now, the time has come. You will pay for your sins." In an instant, countless vicious dogs appeared within the darkness. Feel it properly. Feel the screams of the lives you slaughtered in their final moments. Meanwhile, Father Karasin was the strongest enforcer of the papal palace. As one of the church's greatest combat forces, he was also the only one capable of wielding the relics left behind by Saint Gale. It was said that each relic possessed the power of an entire fortress, and now, against those undead corpses, Karasin was overwhelming them with ease. As the undead bodies kept rushing toward him, Karasin muttered in his usual violent tone. With one punch, he smashed apart a corpse's head, and before long, the undead around him were completely wiped out. The necromancer controlling the corpses trembled as he watched. This was insane. Why was the church's enforcer here? And what exactly was that power coming from him? Karasin held a Bible in his hand and slowly walked toward the necromancer. Seeing this, the necromancer immediately turned and tried to flee. But he had only taken 2 steps when Karasin grabbed him with one hand. "Did you really think you could just walk away?" As Karasin's grip tightened, the necromancer's face twisted in pain. "My prayer is not over yet, so be grateful, because this judgment has already been placed upon you, in the name of the light." The next moment, Karasin crushed the necromancer's head on the spot. One of the burst eyeballs shot through the air and landed right in front of Klein. Then Karasin's voice came from ahead. "Young Master Klein." Klein felt immense pressure at that moment. Karasin was only walking toward him slowly, so why was his presence this overwhelming? So many undead corpses had been torn apart by him in a single instant. Then Karasin's large hand gradually reached toward Klein. "I sensed the presence of necromancy, so I came here immediately. But this is strange. The power I felt doesn't seem to belong to this world." Fortunately, at that moment, Dunkel arrived on horseback just in time. "Young Master, are you all right?" At that moment, a thin line of blood flowed from the corner of Klein's mouth. Right on cue. It seemed that forcing necromancy through this body was still too much after all. Dunkel hurried over and supported him. "Young Master, what exactly happened here? Where is young Master Dalton?" Klein slowly answered, "I killed him, because he tried to kill me first." After returning to the estate, Klein was immediately brought before the judgment hall. Dalton's father, Delwy, was furious. "Are you saying Dalton tried to assassinate young Master Klein? My son was a man of honor and loyalty. Now that he's dead, you still want to brand him as an assassin?" Klein's father, Helton, immediately took out a written record. Even after a long and severe interrogation, Klein's statement did not change once. There is also another matter. Records show that 20 mercenaries were sent out of the estate at that time. Is that not obvious enough? Delwy was instantly left speechless, though inwardly he cursed those fools for leaving evidence behind after he had clearly warned them not to. Still, he quickly forced himself to argue. "That still makes no sense. Dalton was already skilled enough to join a knight order, while Klein had barely even touched a sword. And everyone knows Klein has no mana at all. How could he possibly kill Dalton?" Deep down, he panicked. "Dalton has already failed, but this must not drag me down with him, or I'm finished too." Delwy immediately changed direction. Who really knows what kind of person young Master Klein is? He was born from the line of Grand Duchess Claire, a bloodline that has always been surrounded by rumors. And hasn't he always claimed to be Archimant? How can we trust an accusation from someone like that? It is obvious that young Master Klein, a talentless boy with no achievements, hired people to assassinate my son. Now that it has been exposed, he is trying to pin the crime on us. Suddenly, a voice came from the entrance. It was Klein. "I've heard enough of your nonsense. He hired people to kill me, and I only acted in self-defense. At the time, a mysterious person turned them into undead, and Father Karasin arrived in time to save me." Helton immediately stood up. "That is a lie." Klein turned to look at him. "But the part about me being Archimant is true, isn't it?" Helton was instantly left without words. But in Klein's heart, a vow had already been made. From the moment he killed Dalton, he decided he would rebuild this family with his own hands. It was a family founded upon the price of his death, and he would not let anyone defile it any longer. The first ones he would deal with were the branch family bastards who dared to provoke him. Just then, another person entered the hall. "My apologies, everyone. I am late. Leia, commander of the Blue Lance Knights, has arrived." Klein narrowed his eyes slightly, feeling a little curious. Why had Leia come here? Someone from the judgment seats spoke up. "Lady Leia, this matter has nothing to do with the Fallway family, does it?" Helton immediately replied, "I asked her to come. Dalton once served under her command, so she has the right to take part in this judgment. After entering, Leia immediately looked at Klein. If you do not mind, I would like to speak with young Master Klein alone. When the two of them reached a private corner, Leia suddenly pressed Klein against the wall. May I examine you? She even half-jokingly threw out a line. If you're really that capable, I wouldn't mind giving you my first kiss. Leia was known throughout the northern nobility as someone no one wanted to mess with. She had once suppressed monsters alone in the western forest, and single-handedly wiped them all out. For such an absurdly fierce woman to suddenly say something like that to Klein made even him feel a chill. What exactly was she trying to do? Leia paid no attention to his reaction and picked up Klein's hand to inspect it. Soft and smooth, not a single scar or blister. From this alone, I can tell you have never seriously trained with a sword. But that is what makes this strange. You somehow defeated an official knight like Dalton, along with more than 20 mercenaries. Did you use some other power? Klein quickly pushed Leia away. I never expected you to ask something like that. Are you going to ask whether I'm Archimonde next? This woman was dangerous. She was not simply curious. Her eyes were clearly testing Klein's reaction. She was not just waiting for an answer. She was waiting for an opening. Even silence could be treated as an admission. In that case, he had to answer directly and with absolute confidence. Klein raised his eyes and looked at Leia. What if I am Archimonde? Leia heard that and laughed instead. How could a little kid like you be him? You're too short. You don't look the part at all. Your proportions are all wrong. Your voice doesn't match, and your build is nowhere close. To put it simply, you are just a kid. You are neither Archimonde nor a knight. If someone like you could really defeat a knight, then I wouldn't mind giving you my first kiss. Klein was so thoroughly shut down by her words that he could not even argue back for a moment. Why did she have to attack him like that? And what was the point of something like a first kiss anyway? Was this supposed to be a political tactic? Or was she trying to bribe him in some strange way? Before long, the two returned to the judgment hall. The moment Klein stepped inside, he drove a long sword straight into the floor. Delwy, stop running your mouth. Let's settle this the northern way, face to face, through a trial by duel. The people around them were instantly shocked. What did you just say? A trial by duel? It was an ancient judicial method passed down in the north. When a case was too difficult to judge, both sides could decide the truth through combat, with no restrictions on weapons or techniques. The result of the duel would directly determine the final verdict. Delwy stood up in surprise as well. A trial by duel? Klein looked at him coldly. There is already evidence proving that your son tried to kill me first, yet you still want to pin the blame on me. More importantly, in the middle of all this, you even dared to insult my mother. Make your decision, Count Delwy. Are you planning to keep everyone waiting? The crowd immediately grew excited when they heard the words trial by duel. After all, this ancient form of judgment had not appeared in a very long time. Seeing this, Helton also spoke. If this is a tradition passed down from the first generation, then we cannot ignore it. The 7th Duke of the Land family then guaranteed that the duel would decide the outcome, and all evidence submitted so far would be considered void. Delwy immediately began thinking, if all the evidence was voided, then this was actually an opportunity for him. I heard you have no mana, young master. Still, I intend to send another knight to fight in my place. Klein showed no fear at all. That's fine. Just watch closely how I killed Dalton. The two sides reached an agreement at once. The duel would take place in 4 days. At that moment, Klein was already calculating his next move. He had not raised the stakes for no reason. This was only the beginning. Delwy was nothing more than a stepping stone. Klein would make those branched families see for themselves who the true leader was. What Klein intended to do was completely overturn the current structure of the family. As soon as Klein returned to the estate, his older brother Delia rushed over. A trial by duel? Are you insane, Klein? Do you understand that you could die? Facing his brother's concern, Klein could only feel helpless. I know exactly what I'm doing, and father agreed to it too, didn't he? But Delia refused to listen. It's fine. A trial by duel allows a proxy champion. I'll fight for you. No matter how loudly those branch families bark, the Land family can continue ruling the north. Klein interrupted calmly. There's only one reason for that. We have father, the strongest knight. And you, brother, are his heir. But now you want to join the trial by duel in my place. Wake up, brother. That would only give them a legal chance to kill the heir of the Land family. Delia clenched his fists. When you were born, I was so happy I nearly jumped. I ran to see you right away. The first time I saw you, it felt like I was looking at an angel. I never cared that we had different mothers. But then, you were sent to the temple for 7 whole years. Now, you've finally come back, and you're already going to fight in a trial by duel. As he spoke, Delia actually began to cry. Just then, Dunkel walked in again, at the worst possible time. I apologize for interrupting this brotherly moment. However, Delwy has already chosen his proxy. His name is Randall. He is a knight who was expelled from the Empire. He once earned great fame on the battlefield, but he was cast out because he could not control his bloodlust. 4 days later, Klein had already finished preparing for the duel. He picked up the sword specially made for him and stepped into the dangerous arena. Even then, there was not a trace of fear on Klein's face. This surprised Delwy. I didn't expect your younger son to actually come in person, Duke Helton. You do realize the one I sent is a famous knight of the Empire. If you beg me now, I can still allow you to change fighters. At that moment, Klein could already sense danger descending inside the arena. A massive knight, built like a giant, was standing silently behind him. Randall looked down at Klein and grinned. So you're Klein? You're even younger than I expected, and so pitifully small. I wonder what sound your neck will make when I snap it. Klein did not hesitate for even a second, and immediately put distance between himself and Randall. Seeing that, Delwy became even more pleased. See that? Look how scared your son is. But Klein was not actually frightened by Randall himself. It was that overwhelming pressure that reminded him of the helplessness he had once felt before Father Karrason. He had not expected the trauma from that day to run so deep that his body instinctively wanted to escape. Meanwhile, Leia was quietly watching the duel from above. She could not help but remember what she had said before. If Klein truly defeated this knight, she would give him her first kiss. Once Klein remembered that, he suddenly felt awkward. He quickly tried to play it off. My shoulder has been bothering me lately, so you better not touch it. Do you not understand human language? Are your ears blocked by muscle too? No wonder the Empire threw you away. Hearing that, Randall exploded with rage. He drove his fist straight toward Klein. Klein did not hesitate at all, and instantly undid the buttons on his clothes. When Randall's fist came crashing down, Klein had already vanished into a cloud of smoke. In the next instant, he appeared directly behind Randall. This man's strength was ridiculous. If Klein took a direct hit from him, he definitely would not be able to endure it. He had to admit that. As a necromancer, he was still not used to direct combat, but that was exactly what he needed to overcome. Randall came back to his senses and gathered his strength again, launching another attack at Klein. Using the agility that came with his smaller body, Klein easily avoided the strike. At the same time, he drew his sword and counterattacked. But to his surprise, Randall caught his attack with ease. The next second, Klein was violently thrown away. Randall immediately swung the long blade in his hand, cutting straight down toward Klein. Klein could only raise his sword and forcefully block the attack. Randall sneered. Do you think you can win just by dodging? Why not try using necromancy? Aren't you Archimonde? Klein's gaze changed instantly as he stared straight at Randall. So, do you want to die by my necromancy? In that instant, Randall was actually frightened into stepping back. What was that just now? Why did that kid give off such an ominous aura? Klein steadied himself and gripped his sword once more. Don't worry, I won't use necromancy, because today I am a knight. I need to prove myself with the sword. Randall finally snapped back to his senses. How could I be scared by a little kid? That must have been an illusion. This brat does not have a single trace of mana in him. The greatest advantage of an Imperial Knight is the ability to use mana, and this kid cannot do that at all. The next moment, a powerful surge of mana erupted for Randall's body. He lunged toward Klein in an instant. With that sheer momentum alone, he should have been able to crush the brat easily. But Klein simply leaped aside, avoiding his attack once again. I can see his technique, and I can see the flow of his mana. Even the path of his swordsmanship is perfectly clear to me. Klein's repeated dodging finally drove Randall into a rage. You annoying fly, why do you keep darting around? Then Randall gathered all the mana in his body and slammed it straight into the ground. In an instant, the entire arena was engulfed by his overwhelming mana. But when the mana faded, Klein was nowhere to be seen in front of him. At that moment, Klein flashed right behind Randall. He drew his sword, and with a streak of light, his slash cut straight through Randall's body. The crowd was instantly shocked. That is the meteor sword used by the first Duke. Up above, Leia watched Klein's overwhelming display, and her cheeks flushed uncontrollably. At this moment, the necromancer who had once terrified the entire continent was actually facing a knight head-on with a sword in hand. Klein could now perform sword techniques even with a body that had no mana, and what made it possible was the swordsmanship passed down through generations of the Land family. Because the North was bitterly cold, the Land family's swordsmanship had always focused on reducing mana consumption to the absolute minimum. Imperial swordsmanship was all about total domination, releasing mana all at once to overwhelm the opponent with raw power. The Land family swordsmanship, however, was about restraint. That was why even someone like Klein, who had no mana, could use it. Its power was naturally weaker than ordinary knight swordsmanship, but against the man before him, it was more than enough. After being wounded, Randall became even more furious. Blood-red mana erupted from his entire body. The people around them cried out in shock. This was Randall's secret technique, a mana burst that could instantly restrict an opponent's movements. Wrapped in blood-red mana, Randall charged straight toward Klein. Yet Klein merely raised the sword in his hand and blocked the attack head-on. That sword was the weapon Klein had specially ordered in advance. The moment it collided with a sword infused with mana, it would immediately shatter. When Randall saw Klein's sword break apart, he burst into laughter. "Kid, you're dead." But Klein's eyes changed, and he instantly slipped to the side. "Now, the weapon I needed to hunt you is finally complete." The next second, Klein used the broken sword to sever Randall's arm. From above, Helton immediately declared, "That is enough. The duel is over." What Klein had just shown left even the famous knights watching from above in disbelief. It was true that the Land family's swordsmanship could be performed with very little mana, but normally, only experienced knights could pull that off. Not only that, Klein had deliberately made the blade break so he could deliver a lethal strike at extremely close range. No matter how they looked at it, it was unbelievable. Randall, whose arm had been cut off, was now lying on the ground and screaming in pain. At that moment, Klein's father, Helton, also came down from above. "Klein, you saw a severed limb and did not feel disgusted at all?" Klein suddenly realized the problem. "Right, I'm supposed to be a child now, not the necromancer I used to be. Should I pretend to be terrified?" Delwy, who had been so confident before, stumbled down trembling. Impossible. Randall actually lost. Klein merely turned and glanced at him. In that instant, Delwy felt as if his head had been torn away from his body, but the next moment, he snapped awake and kept touching his neck. "What was that just now? An illusion? Or did someone attack me?" Klein slowly walked up to Delwy. "As the victor of this duel, I command you to confess your sins before the Lord of the North. Kneel and beg for forgiveness. You will be crushed beneath the weight of your sins, and you will repent for them forever." In an instant, a ghostly undead figure appeared behind Delwy. His entire body began trembling uncontrollably. The next moment, he dropped to his knees and begged Klein, "I was wrong. To think my son and I actually dared to target young Master Klein." The illusion he had just experienced was all caused by Klein's voice of the king. It was a soul-disrupting spell, unique to necromancers, one that could plunge the living into endless terror. At this point, Delwy had been frightened into madness by Klein. The scene left the other nobles in disbelief. "Am I seeing things? What is he doing?" Klein raised the broken sword in his hand right on cue. "Everyone here, listen carefully. I am the challenger of this trial by duel, and I am also its rightful victor. I am Klein, second son of Helton, the strongest knight of this era." Meanwhile, Father Karrison had already made his way to another hall. 2 days ago, I found a necromancer. I traced him back to you." The bishop praying at the front answered directly, "Yes. He was sent there to cooperate with the Empire's operation. Necromancers are terrifying beings. Those frightened by them will naturally seek God's protection. Do you understand? Karrison, if a small number of sacrifices can revive the Holy Order." But before he could finish, Karrison had already grabbed him tightly by the throat with one hand. The servant of the temple, sinking into political games and even making deals with heretics. The next moment, Karrison crushed the bishop's head outright. A voice slowly came from behind him. "Feeling better now? You really haven't changed, Karrison. Who would have thought you'd kill more clergy than necromancers? They really ought to know what you're really hiding inside." The man who arrived was Menel, Grand Archbishop of the Holy Order. Karrison turned to look at him. "Was this your doing, Menel?" Menel replied calmly, "Of course not. I merely approved it. Also, I brought you a piece of information." But by then, Karrison's fist was already flying toward him. Only after hearing those words did his fist stop dead right in front of Menel's face. Menel continued, "It concerns the person you've been monitoring. Necromancy always leaves traces when it is used, and this cross still carries those traces. They belong to the necromancer you killed. Necromancy comes in several forms. One is corpse revival, which reanimates dead bodies. The Empire is actively researching that, but the person in question used soul manipulation, a form close to the original root of necromancy. That kind of power has not appeared in many years. In other words, the target you are monitoring, Klein, may truly be a necromancer." At that moment, Klein was still in the estate. looking through documents. It had now been 1 week since the trial by duel. Back then, Klein had defeated Randall using the Land family's secret sword technique and publicly displayed his power before the branch families. He had thought that after such an event, the family would acknowledge him at least a little, but he had forgotten one thing. In the family's eyes, this body was still far too abnormal, and no one knew what kind of role they were supposed to give him. So now, Klein could only stay in his room and read. Based on his current physical condition, he calculated that he could summon 11 skeletons at most. His magic was still unstable as well, nowhere near enough to support a long battle. The biggest problem was still that damned priest. Karrison had already started suspecting him, and, with the way that man seemed determined to wipe out every necromancer, Klein found him extremely troublesome. He had to find a way to hide his true identity. Just then, Klein's father suddenly came into the room. "This is a report we received from the mine. People say there are many undead creatures inside, and there have already been casualties. Someone needs to investigate. You may take this mission." Klein immediately nodded. "No problem. You already know what I'm capable of." After the trial by duel, his abilities had gained his father's recognition. Besides, the undead in the mine were likely connected to the companions of that necromancer from before. He had to check it out himself. More importantly, in a place like that, he might be able to use necromancy without holding back. But to Klein's surprise, the solo mission he had imagined did not happen. His father still sent Dunkel with him. Looking at Klein, who could now stand on his own, Dunkel could not help sighing. "Young master, I truly feel that you are not on the same level as others your age. You don't show off your talent, and you've even helped the family. Considering everything that has happened recently, I can't help wondering if you really might be Archimant, reborn." Klein immediately looked helpless. "Please never say that in front of that priest." Dunkel burst into laughter at once. "Of course not, young master. You're not that kind of person. Archimant was a demon. He turned tens of millions of people into undead soldiers." But the moment he finished speaking, violent winds suddenly swept through the area. Cries of panic came from the distance. In the nearby town, countless walking corpses had appeared. The townspeople were being chased by the corpses and could only flee desperately. Just as they were about to be caught, a figure flashed past and cut down the corpses in an instant. The one who acted was Dunkel, who had rushed over after hearing the commotion. Klein followed Dunkel into the town as well, ready to help the residents. "Don't worry about me, Dunkel. Save the civilians first." Before long, as Dunkel swept through them, all the undead nearby collapsed. Only then did the fleeing residents gradually return to the town. "Thank you for helping us. May we ask where you came from?" Dunkel quickly introduced them. "This is young Master Klein, the second son of the Land family. But right now, I'm more concerned with when this situation began." Klein looked at the undead lying around them and had already made his judgment. "This is revival magic. It is used to raise corpses and control them. It is the same method used by the person who attacked me in the forest." One civilian slowly stepped forward. "It started about 2 months ago. At first, people just went missing one after another. But when they came back, they had already become like this." Unexpectedly, another civilian suddenly rushed up to Klein. "You're from the Land family, aren't you? We've been asking our lord for help for 2 whole months, and we still haven't received any response. And now that you're finally standing here, you still ask us what happened? Have you ever thought about this? Some of the people you just cut down were our family. They worked day and night in your mines. And now they've become monsters like this. Why do we have to suffer like this?" Klein simply stared straight at him. "Shut up. You're too loud. I'm not the one who turned your people into monsters. If you just want to vent your anger, go find the person actually responsible. And don't forget, we just saved your life." Dunkel quickly stepped in and held the civilian back. "Young master, don't worry. I'll handle this." But Klein acted as if he had not heard him and began quietly chanting at the side. The corpses that had just been cut down began moving again. But as Klein's mana spread outward, everyone realized it was not the corpses themselves moving. It was the souls trapped inside those bodies being released, bit by bit. The sight left every resident around them frozen in place. What is that? Could it be soul resonance? They say a spell like that appeared during the Great Plague in the North, 200 years ago. It was used to save the souls of the dead. After setting those souls free, Klein continued toward the mine. But at that moment, Dunkel slowly drew his sword behind him. "Tell me clearly, who are you?" Although Dunkel's blade was already at Klein's neck, his heart was still full of hesitation. Today, the young master was completely different from usual. And that power he had just used, was he truly Archimant, or was he simply a necromancer? Klein did not panic at all. He only spoke calmly. "Who I am is not important. but I want to ask you one question. Do you still remember the opening words spoken by the first Duke? Dunkel hesitated for a moment, but still answered. What defines a person is their actions and conduct, not the circumstances of their birth. Klein nodded. Exactly. That is why someone like you, born a commoner, could become captain of the Night Order, and I had a witch for a mother. I am also of mixed blood. That same is the reason I was allowed to live. Since I left the monastery, you are the person who has spent the most time with me. So how you choose to see me is up to you. If you believe I am Archimant, then strike me down. Only then did Dunkel slowly lower his sword. I haven't decided yet. But for now, the person I serve is young Master Klein, second son of the Land family. He is not that kind of brutal demon. Hearing that, Klein froze slightly. Then he turned his face away. Save the cheesy lines. Let's keep moving. Soon, the two arrived at the mine where the walking corpses had appeared. Dunkel quickly inspected the area and frowned. There is a strong stench of corpses in here. Klein pointed ahead. I don't think you need to check. See those walking bodies over there? Dunkel immediately became alert. I only see 7 right now, but there are definitely more inside. By then, Klein had already started chanting off to the side. The next moment, a group of undead soldiers slowly crawled up from the ground. The sight left Dunkel so shocked that he did not even know how to respond. But Klein paid no attention to his reaction. With a wave of his hand, the undead soldiers charged straight ahead. The powerful undead soldiers mowed down the walking corpses with ease. Their strength was so overwhelming that even Dunkel could hardly believe what he was seeing. Skeletons this powerful, almost no different from ordinary knights, actually existed. Under the undead soldiers' assault, the corpses blocking their path were soon cut down completely. Seeing this, Dunkel quickly moved deeper into the mine. From the sound of it, there are at least 40 more walking corpses inside. We need to be careful. But when he turned around, Klein had already started chanting again. As the incantation continued, the fallen corpses on the ground were gradually covered in mana. If there are more enemies inside, then I'll just prepare more helpers. This was one of the most basic strategies used when necromancers fought each other. All right, this should be enough to win the battle. At Klein's command, the newly converted undead soldiers rushed straight into the depths of the mine. The undead transformed by Klein had clearly risen more than 1 level in power. The corpses that had been their equals moments ago now had no chance against them. Even more unbelievably, under Klein's tactical command, the skeletons moved with incredible agility, forming waves of coordinated attacks, one after another. Everything Dunkel saw today was almost impossible for him to accept. Among the undead, skeletons were supposed to be the lowest-ranked soldiers. Yet under the young master's control, they moved like a real army, carrying out an organized assault. Before long, the remaining corpses in the mine were completely wiped out by the skeleton soldiers. Dunkel was even more stunned. They wiped out a force 4 times larger than theirs without taking a single loss. That is ridiculous. Klein then spoke slowly. From this point on, it's just the 2 of us. You said you would trust me, so keep trusting me. After a brief silence, Dunkel finally nodded. Understood. But just then, a drop of blood suddenly landed on his face. A faint cry for help then came from deeper inside the mine. The 2 hurried over and saw a group of miners suspended in rows, mid-air. It seemed these missing people were the villagers from the town. They had been kidnapped and used as materials for revival magic. At that moment, a figure slowly walked out of the darkness. You're right. It seems you understand these matters quite well. Revival magic is a spell that reanimates corpses and turns them into servants. Naturally, it requires a great deal of material. For us necromancers, that is basic knowledge, isn't it? Still, to meet you here today, it is truly an honor, Lord Archimant, the demon of this continent. It has been a very long time since Lord Archimant's era. My name is Elpi, and I am a necromancer. Dunkel stared fiercely at Elpi. Klein, however, noticed at a glance that she had already infused magic into her robe. Dunkel hesitated for a moment before drawing his sword. The one standing beside me is young Master Klein of the Land family. Do not address him by a vile name like Archimant. Klein wanted to argue with that statement, but for a moment, he had no idea how to say it. Elpi merely smiled. I only meant to tease the young master a little. I didn't expect you to react so strongly. I have heard the rumors, of course. But after sensing the magic you released today, I can say for certain that you are definitely a necromancer. Dunkel immediately spoke up. Stop spouting nonsense. Answer my question. What did you do to those people? And who ordered you to do it? But Elpi continued talking to herself. A true necromancer does not rely on any tools. We command souls, and we command life and death. The residents hanging above them were suddenly wrapped in terrifying black mist. Then a mass of black fog appeared at the center of them all, slowly drawing their bodies together. Elpai glanced at Klein. Today, I will show you what a true necromancer looks like. This is the masterpiece I spent my entire life creating. The next moment, a massive hand reached out from the merged black mist. Then, its limbs slowly emerged from the darkness. Seeing this, Dunkel froze in place. What is that thing? Even on the battlefield, I've never seen anything like this. Just what kind of monster had this woman created? The monster suddenly charged straight toward them. Dunkel quickly grabbed Klein. Young master, run. Get out of here. But Klein shoved Dunkel away. The next second, Klein was sent flying by a brutal slap from the monster. After knocking Klein away, the monster did not stop attacking and continued charging toward him. Once it closed in on Klein, it raised its foot and stomped straight down on him. Suddenly, a long sword flashed through the air and sliced open the monster's foot. It was Dunkel, who had finally snapped back to his senses. He shouted, "You will not hurt the young master." With that single slash, half of the monster's leg was cut off. Elpai actually began clapping. What a magnificent strike. Unfortunately, even an attack that powerful cannot leave a real wound on my creation. The foot that had just been severed slowly fused back together. Without the slightest pause, the monster charged straight toward Dunkel again. Dunkel stared at the monster in front of him and stood firmly before Klein. Just now, the young master had risked himself just to save him. And when Dunkel thought about how he had recently suspected the young master of being Archimant, he couldn't forgive himself. At that moment, he kept circling the monster, slashing into its flesh again and again. No matter what price he had to pay today, he had to protect the young master who trusted him this much. Dunkel's swordsmanship was undeniably powerful, but the monster's recovery speed was even more absurd. The wounds he had just carved open healed again in the very next second. Seeing this, Dunkel could only leap toward the monster's head. Where was its weakness? The only place he had not cut yet was its skull. But the moment he jumped into the air, Dunkel lost his greatest advantage, his mobility. The monster seized the opening and smacked him away with one brutal strike. Dunkel was sent flying and slammed straight into the wall by that terrifying force. He lost consciousness on the spot. Seeing the monster she had created display such overwhelming power, Elpai was nearly drunk on excitement. She had always been obsessed with necromancy. After countless experiments, she had finally created this monster. In her eyes, this was the one and only necromancy that truly belonged to her. At that moment, Elpai burst into a crazed laugh. This is my necromancy. My talent has absolutely surpassed Archimant. Just then, a voice suddenly rang out. Core point linkage. That is the first key to synthesizing your one-eyed monster. The second part is the core suture system. In other words, the knots that force the corpses to stay bound together. That is why, even if its limbs are cut off, they grow back again. It is also the source of its regenerative energy. So destroying this monster is simple. All I need to do is destroy its core point. Then, where is that core point? It is not fixed in one position. Because that point is too important, you designed it to move freely throughout the body. Elpai laughed. That's right, it is constantly moving. So how exactly are you going to find it? Give up. This is the masterpiece I poured my entire life into. Against an absolute genius like me, there is no point in resisting. At that moment, the one-eyed monster charged toward Klein again. Klein spoke coldly. Genius? I have seen far too many geniuses. Not a single one of them lasted to the end. The next moment, he swung his sword. As the blade flashed, the yellow core was shattered on the spot. Elpai's head was severed along with it. It all happened so fast that Elpai's head was severed before she could even react. Klein looked down at her from above. If this was your life's work, then in your next life, maybe you should treat it as a hobby instead.